Good afternoon, traders. This is TonyD from easyMarkets in the Sydney dealing room. A little update for you to start off this Monday. You saw some pretty heavy selling coming through in the US stock market on Friday. And the market actually closed on the lows. What you have seen though since the open today, let's just bring up the US 30 here. What you've seen since the open today is a little bit of a bounce as there's been some positive developments over the weekend. Most particular, you've seen Mnuchin come out a few times, Treasury Secretary of the US, come out a few times saying they've made a deal with South Korea. Now they're looking at talking with China to see if they can't make a trade truce, is what he's talking about. Basically, no more tit for tat, tariffs on each other, trying to work on that major deficit that they've got in terms of how much the China exports to the US and US exports to China. Also, though, there was warnings from China saying that they've got a list of future things they can put tariffs on if the trade war was to continue. So, most importantly, the big ones, Apple and Boeing, which are the biggest exports from the US to China. So those would have a bit more of a dramatic effect on the actual main trade that happens between those two countries, but that's not there yet, and this could all be just some sort of negotiation from Trump. There's still a month before those new tariffs that he's signed into play last month come into effect, so they can definitely be stopped if an agreement is made. And the market liked this talk over the weekend that there is back channel talks happening between the US and the US now, and the positivity from Mnuchin is also helping markets recover a little. You've seen a steady grind higher in both the dollar yen and the US stock markets, but you can see there's still a fair bit of room to gain here. If you look at the size of the selling coming across on Friday and Thursday last week, pretty aggressive. So you've still got a fairly big chunk of rally, even at just a temporary dead cat bounce. If the market wants to rally for a day or two before we get to further selling later in the week, that can definitely happen just as part of normal trading as it is. Stabilization is definitely happening though. So dollar yen looks very similar to that chart there. So dollar yen is stabilizing at the 107.60-ish level and has bounced back to 105. If we can hold above 105 for a day or two, that would help cement expectations that the bottom could be in short term anyway. That could help us help the dollar anyway start to rally. And it could happen that there would just be euro yen, pound yen, dollar yen all rally, because the euro and the pound are both still getting support here, even as that, well, relatively good news came out regarding the trade wars over the weekend. So it's not so clear that you are going to see a negative euro or negative pound if that was to become a bit more of a theme in the next couple of days. If you are selling stocks, just be careful because the short squeeze can be pretty sharp after so much selling. If there is a hint of positivity there, we'll see how the US session reacts to it. If the market can't rally on a day like today, then you have got issues, pretty systemic issues, I think, and the bear market could really be taking a hold because this is sort of news that should lead to a stabilization and a little bit of a bounce. And if it's just ignored and the bears keep on selling and the US dollar keeps on getting sold, as you can see in the dollar index, then there isn't much hope there, because things can get a lot worse. The trade war hasn't even begun and the market's ignoring any positive news. Gold is sitting up around that 1350 level. Now, if you're looking on the weekly, see the or the monthly even, see this 1360 level. It's been holding for the last couple of years, and if we were to break it, we could definitely see some huge moves up towards 1400 very quickly. So keep an eye on this if you're trading. This is definitely the level that a lot of traders are looking at. It's actually around 1360, not 13. Not the. So you can see the market's actually had a few months where it's gone above 1360 and come back down. So we really just got to close above that 1360 level. That's where the traders will get a little aggressive, get that move back towards the 1400 level. In terms of the Aussie dollar, a little bit of a bounce after the positive news, and this is coming through because Aussie dollar is seen as a proxy for China, and China is also very negative into any trade war. So any chance that it's going to be averted is definitely seen as positive, and the Aussie dollar is grinding up so far on the day. But the Aussie Kiwi is under pressure now. The Aussie Kiwi combination of the Kiwi US and the Aussie US. The Kiwi is outpacing today because we do have a little bit less aggressive than expected new guidelines for the RBNZ. So RBNZ came out, pretty much everyone knew the government over in New Zealand, the new government from last year, got voted in on one of the main calls was they're going to change the mandate for the RBNZ, and so basically including the employment numbers in there as a main target, so not just inflation like Australia. And this has the purpose, effect anyway, generally of making the Kiwi dollar weaker, was what traders thought, and that's why they're selling the Kiwi so aggressively last year. Let's bring up that Kiwi so we can see that on the monthly, just so we know what we're talking about there. That heavy selling that came through last year was on the back of that, but what you've seen is a little less bark, a little bit more bark than bite in terms of the new changes, not as great as feared. So you're seeing the Kiwi outperform the Aussie today in the risk-on environment, or slightly better risk-on environment, and that's playing through the Nikkei and also the ASX bouncing off lows from the open today as well. Alright, look, if you're interested in getting a little bit of a deeper update or just looking at particular crosses, there's multiple movements in play here, and some of these big themes and big trades that we've been involved in, we do have to maybe temper our levels or look to take profit and then re-establish those positions as the market has a corrective bounce. So give us a call on the contact details below. If you're not a member of the easyMarkets dealing room, you will be able to access a dealer like myself by joining up on the link below.